Today I'd like to talk about how to set up UTM tracking in Google Analytics. So let's talk about what is UTM tracking in Google Analytics. First, what does UTM stand for? It stands for Urchin Tracking Module, which of course, how does that relate to Google Analytics? Basically, it's the thing that Google purchased and kind of took over and kind of morphed into what they then called Google Analytics. So UTM now is just really an acronym, but technically, if you want to know what it stands for, that's what it stands for. The key is tracking. So what is an example of a UTM tracking? Well, first of all, again, these are things you put on URLs. So they're usually links that you have to other websites that then link to your website. And in order to track where they came from, you put some additional information in the URL so that you can figure this out. So an example here would be, first you have a domain name like you normally would in a URL, but then you'll actually add some extra things after a question mark. So you have question mark UTM_source. Then you can actually write the name. In this case, they just called it summer-mailer. Then you have UTM_medium. Medium is where is it coming from? What is it? So in this example, email, but you could have web or basically whatever you'd like. And then finally, campaign, which is really more of, again, the name. So again, UTM tracking uses URL parameters that start with UTM, and then different parameters, source, medium, and campaign in this example. So why do you want to use UTM tracking? Okay, so the real reason to do this is if you just put a link on another website, whether that's a site you own, an advertisement, a link on a directory or whatever, when somebody clicks on that, they come to your website. Now, Google Analytics by itself will have some information about, say, referral. So yeah, that link came from Facebook, or that link came from Google Organic, i.e. the Google search engine, or paid. And then you might know. But by using UTM tracking, you can actually get much more granular and know exactly where it is, because again, you can create those different parameters, and thus when you look at it, you know exactly where that link came from. And again, the parameters are source, which again is something like location. So it could be Facebook, could be Twitter. If you're using social media, it could be email, maybe your email provider. The medium is the kind of thing that it comes from. So these are more generic, such as web, email, things like that. Campaign is when you can really just get truly unique and give it a name of what your campaign is. There are a couple other parameters that do get used. Term. This one was used more if you have a specific keyword that you want, and it's used, say, for example, if you're using Google AdWords, some term information is sent through. And content, and that's just another one you can get, like it's a campaign, but it's specific content. The key is the source, medium, and campaign are required values, so you need to use those. So again, those are the three values. It is very important to standardize because the UTM parameters are case sensitive. So email, but email with a capital E, that would be different. And so you just need to make sure to do these on a very consistent, case sensitive manner. And again, you need to use those three required fields. So for the demonstration, first I'll go ahead and show you kind of how a UTM URL works in a web browser, show you how to create them, and then I'll show you where which reports in Google Analytics you can actually see this information. In this demo of UTM tracking in Google Analytics, I first wanted to kind of break down the custom URL that you used for the UTM tracking. So here's just happened to be a Google Analytics help knowledge base article that we can kind of go through together and look at it. So the first thing I wanted to kind of show you again is the in this case, five parameters that you can use: a source, medium, campaign, term, and content. Again, just to remind that source, medium, and campaign are required. And so again, source, they say, you know, an advertiser, site, or publication. The medium, banner, email, newsletter, CPC, cost per click. Campaign, again, everything that you want. Terms, you know, identified paid search terms, again, not a required field, and content. So here they're giving an example of parameter, or excuse me, a URL that you can use. So again, whatever your domain is, source, whatever you want to have it equal to, a ampersand, UTM medium equal to email, another ampersand, UTM campaign, summer sale. So again, just wanted to kind of show you different things. So now, how do you build one? Well, literally you can write one. So let's kind of go through manual, just again to show you that there's no trick to this, and then I'll show you a much easier way to do that. So let's just fire up Notepad. Okay, so Notepad, we'll just type in our URL, in this case our sample website, houseservicecompany.com, and actually let's bring that back up so you can kind of see them at the same place. And then we just put a question mark and UTM underscore source, and we'll just call this equals advertiser. Put another ampersand, or put the first ampersand, then we do UTM underscore medium equals web, another ampersand, UTM underscore campaign equals test campaign. Oh, this is a good point. Spaces. There are technically doable, but they have a special syntax to do a space. Best just to kind of smash everything together in your text there. Okay, so there is a sample. We'll go ahead and copy that, and we'll open up a new tab, and we'll paste that in, and we'll enter. Now, the cool thing is nothing really changes. You load up the home page. Again, if we go to the home page, looks just the same. But this information is what is getting passed into Google Analytics, and this we'll get to in a second where that shows up. But again, doesn't really change anything. You can also, again, if you had other pages, let's just click on this one so we can get another URL. Okay, great. So there's that URL. And again, this is just text, so there's really nothing special. Here's that one. I'll just go ahead and copy that, paste it down there. Did a little word wrap, copy, and now we'll open up that other page with the UTM parameter. And again, just loads the page as if it is. So how do you create these without having to manually type all this stuff? Well, there's a tool Google actually provides. So we'll go to Google search. We'll type in Google campaign URL builder. Okay. And here we are. So the nice thing about this is it basically allows you to create the content, and then it'll put the information down here. So go back and steal from our text. There's our URL. Paste that in there. Campaign source. In this case, I'll use some of their referrers. We'll say it came from a newsletter. It's email. And it's our test campaign. And you'll notice here they use the underscore character. So again, if you want a little more visual thing, underscore is good. Now the nice thing is, there it is. It's generated. It even gives us a way to copy that URL. So we'll do that. And we will paste it up here. And we'll see that it built it automatically for us. So again, you can build them yourself. You can use the tool. It really doesn't matter. They're just basically text in a URL. So next, I want to show you where that information will actually show up in Google Analytics. So go ahead and log into your Google Analytics account. And if you forget, it's analytics.google.com. So once your dashboard is loaded, you want to actually come over here to acquisitions and then campaigns. And we'll choose all campaigns. Okay, now we don't have any data here to show, but you'll see the primary dimensions. There's our campaign, there's our source, and there's our medium. So again, these match exactly back to the 3 attributes that we had here. So how do you kind of test if things are working? Well, again, if you had set these up and you've had data and people are coming to your website, you'd see different information here. But you can actually go here to the real-time feature. Go to Overview. And you may or may not, if you have people browsing your website, you might see some information here. But what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll grab our UTM tracking URL. We'll go ahead and paste that into our web browser. Go ahead and let the page load. Come back to Google Analytics, and highly likely that one that just popped up as a new user is us. And again, we went to the home page, so again, 2 users there. Well, in fact, actually, let's go to that second page, this Hello World page, since that will definitely be us. Okay, so we'll copy that, paste that back into here. We'll have the larger parameter, copy it, and we'll reload that page with the UTM parameters. So again, our source is newsletter, our medium is email, and our campaign is test campaign. So now we'll go up and we see that that page is loaded, so that's us. If we click on that, we'll see some additional live information, and there and behold, we have our medium of email and our source as newsletter. So that's where the information is being passed. If you'd prefer, you can actually go, I believe, to traffic sources here, and there you see the source listed there and the medium. So again, just different ways of looking at the same information here. But again, you can do the real time there. Now, to go back to that page we were at before, so when we look at the acquisition campaigns, all campaigns, change the date to be today, we still don't see it, and that's unfortunate. It just takes a while for those data points to go through Google Analytics and show up in your reports. But again, if it would show here, you'd be able to see campaign. You could change to see all the sources that you may have, and again, medium, and finally the source/medium tag. But again, it's just combining those 3 parts of the UTM parameters. So again, to kind of summarize again, UTM tracking allows you to put different parameters in a URL, parameters for source, medium, and campaign. You then could put this link on different websites, either advertising places you have, social media profiles, whatever. And then when people click on that, you'll actually see that information then show up in a couple of different places in Google Analytics. If you want to look at real time, you can do that. But more importantly, under the acquisition campaigns, you'll see that, and you can use the different ways to manipulate the report in Google Analytics to show that information. Hope that was helpful. So some conclusions about UTM tracking for Google Analytics. Again, UTM just stands for Urchin Tracking Module, but just think of it as standing for tracking. The reason you want to use this is that way you can determine exactly where the link that you placed was clicked that had that visitor come to your website. Again, there are a number of parameters you can use to control the data coming through, so you can do that. And again, how to use it, you actually just add these parameters to the end of a URL that you want to then come to your website, and then that information gets passed into Google Analytics.